Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're jumping into a really timeless story from Genesis chapter 13. It's about what happens when two relatives, Abram and his nephew Lot, get so successful that their success actually becomes the problem. It's a crisis not of scarcity, but of having way too much, and it's a crisis that threatens to tear their family right apart.
So right off the bat, it forces us to ask a pretty provocative question, right? Can success actually be a curse? I mean, it sounds completely backwards. But as we're about to see in this story, having a whole lot of wealth can create problems that are just as intense as having nothing at all.
Okay, so at the heart of this whole drama, we've got our two main characters. Abram, the uncle, kind of the patriarch of the family, and Lot, his nephew. Now, these two have been traveling together, building their lives literally side by side. And that close family bond is the very thing that's about to be put to the ultimate test.
And here's where it all starts to go sideways. After a trip from Egypt, both Abram and Lot have become, well, extraordinarily successful. I mean, they are at the absolute peak of their game. But that very success, it's about to become a huge, massive burden.
And just think about the sheer scale of what we're talking about here. The text says Abram was very rich in livestock, sure, but also in silver and gold. And Lot, who was traveling with him, had also built up this massive fortune of his own. We're talking huge flocks, tons of herds, and a camp so big it had many tents. They weren't just doing okay. They were basically running two massive independent corporations right next to each other.
And that created, you guessed it, a logistical nightmare. All their stuff, their flocks, their herds, their people, it was just too much. The land couldn't handle it. There wasn't enough grazing pasture, not enough water to go around. They had literally become too successful to occupy the same space.
So what happens next is pretty much inevitable. Whenever resources get tight, conflict is never far behind. And the tension didn't even start between Abram and Lot themselves. It started with their staff, their herdsmen. You can just imagine the arguments, right? Hey, that's our grazing spot. No, we were here first. And all that friction started to poison the whole family relationship from the ground up.
So what does Abram do about this escalating crisis? Well, this is where the story takes a huge turn. He doesn't just sit back and let things get worse. Nope. He comes up with this proactive and, honestly, pretty radical plan to shut down the conflict and, most importantly, save his relationship with Lot. What Abram does here is basically a masterclass in how to resolve a conflict. First, and this is key, he puts his family first, way ahead of his assets. Second, he calls out the conflict. He doesn't pretend it's not happening. Third, he offers a clear solution. They need to separate. And finally, and this is the absolute game changer, he empowers the other person. He basically says to his younger nephew Lot, look, the whole country is in front of you. You choose. If you go left, I'll go right. If you go right, I'll go left. Now you have to understand, in that culture, as the senior family member, Abram had every right to pick first. But instead, he gives all the power, the first choice, to Lot. He's willing to take whatever's left over, just to keep the peace. It's an incredible move. So now all eyes are on Lot. He's just been handed the power to decide his own fate. And he's facing this monumental decision that's going to shape the rest of his life. And what he does is make a really practical choice, but one that, as we're about to find out, is also incredibly dangerous.
So Lot looks out, and he sees the Jordan Valley. And the appeal is just obvious. It's super well watered, it's lush, it's even described as being like the garden of the Lord. Perfect for his business, right? But there's a huge warning label attached. This beautiful land is right next to the city of Sodom. And the text is super clear about this place. Its people were extremely wicked and constantly sinned. So, the perfect land came with a known, very serious moral hazard. In the end, Lot makes his choice based entirely on what he can see. He picks the fertile plains because they promise the best immediate paycheck. He goes for the land that looks good on the surface, and he moves his entire operation, his family, his camp, everything, right up to the borders of Sodom.
And now we get to the story's incredible final act. After Lot is gone, after they've separated, the narrative pulls back the curtain and shows us the profound, unseen reward for Abram's generosity. This is the part he could never have planned for.
So let's just recap what Lot got. He chose something he could see, something tangible, a finite, even if it was really fertile, piece of the valley. From a purely business perspective, it looks like a smart move.
But what about Abram? What did he get for giving up his right to choose first? Well, after Lot was gone, God speaks to Abram and promises him the entire horizon. And that's the stunning contrast, isn't it?
Lot chose a piece of land he could see, but Abram was promised a future he couldn't possibly imagine.
And the scale of this promise is just mind-blowing. God tells Abram, "Look north, south, east, and west. All the land that you can see, I'm giving to you." He's also promised a legacy, descendants as countless as the dust on the earth, and it would all be theirs, permanently. What Abram got for being generous wasn't just a plot of land, it was a future and a legacy that completely dwarfed Lot's short-term win.
So we end up right back where we started, but with a much deeper question. This whole story forces us to ask, what is the true measure of wealth? Is it the stuff you can see and count right now, like Lot's fertile valley? Or maybe, is real wealth something totally different, something unseen, like the strength of your relationships, the generosity in your heart, and a vision that stretches far, far beyond your own horizon? It's something to think about.